Hello there. Tonight's headline reads like the plot twist of a Desi soap opera. The one where Pakistan becomes an oil superpower and sells fuel to India. You heard that right. The same Pakistan that can't even meet its own energy needs. The same Pakistan where petrol queues are longer than wedding guest lists. And the same Pakistan that's basically a glorified customer in the global oil market is now being pitched as a future exporter. To whom? To us, to India. The joke writes itself. But let's unpack this Trump-powered fairy tale with some cold, hard, fossil-fueled facts. Let's start with Donald Trump's big announcement. Just a few days ago, Trump claimed that US and Pakistan have struck a deal to develop what he called massive oil reserves in Pakistan. He even added, in classic Trump flair, who knows, maybe they will be selling oil to India someday. Yeah. And maybe I'll buy a Tesla from my Pani Puri guy. The internet called it delusional. Energy analysts called it speculative. We call it tonight's top story. Now let's hit pause on the theatrics and focus on the maths. As of 2021, Pakistan had about 540 million barrels of proven oil reserves. That is 0.02% of the world's total. Not 20%, not 2%, 0.02%. To put it simply, the world's oil were a full glass. Pakistan is offering a single drop and calling it a tanker. And how much oil does Pakistan need to survive daily? Around 556,000 barrels per day. But it only produces 88,000 barrels. That's a shortfall of nearly 85%. You're getting me? 85%. Which it covers by importing oil from mostly UAE, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Kuwait, and recently even Russia. They import roughly 137,000 barrels every day. And in 2024 alone, they spent over 5.1 billion just to keep the lights on. So the big question is, how exactly does a country that imports 85% of its oil plan to export any? Now let's talk infrastructure. Pakistan has 5 major refineries: Synergical, Parco, Attak, Pakistan Refinery and National Refinery. Together, they can process around 450,000 barrels per day. But most of these refineries, they are outdated, underutilized, or operating far below capacity. Plans for a shiny new oil city have been floating around since 2017. But so far, it's all PowerPoint and no petrol. So what about these massive reserves that Trump is gushing over? Well, there have been some seismic surveys in offshore Sindh and Balochistan. And while those surveys suggest that there could be oil, here's the reality. No commercial drilling has taken place. Not one barrel has been extracted from these so-called reserves. In fact, the only thing massive about this project is the overstatement. Now let's get to that Trump statement that Pakistan might one day sell oil to India. That's not just wishful thinking, it's geopolitical stand-up comedy. Pakistan doesn't even have a pipeline to India, for starters. It doesn't have an export terminal equipped for global volumes. It doesn't even have enough oil to meet its own demand, for starters. Suggesting that Pakistan might supply us is like saying a guy with a cycle is going to start Uber, which is kind of possible maybe. But India, let's just say we know how to handle energy. We import about 80 to 85% of our oil, yes. But we buy smart. Our top suppliers are Iraq, Saudi Arabia, Russia, UAE, and the US. And we have strategically diversified. We have even bought discounted oil from Russia while balancing the diplomacy with the West. We have the refining capacity, the storage, the ports, the infrastructure, and the credit rating to back it up. Pakistan, on the other hand, is reportedly paying rupees 270 plus per liter of petrol. They are struggling with smuggling from Iran and constantly negotiating for deferred payments and IMF waivers just to fund oil imports. Not exactly the profile of your next global exporter for sure. Let's also talk about the 1 million barrels of oil coming from the US to Pakistan via Synergical. This will be Pakistan's first ever shipment of US WTI crude. And it's not for sale to anyone else. It is for their own domestic use. One shipment, one time, not a pipeline, not a contract, not an export plan. This is one shipment. And if we zoom out, the entire US-Pakistan oil narrative starts to look like what it probably is: geopolitical theater, a message to India, a pressure tactic, a way to say, play by our trade rules or we'll make deals with your enemies. Remember, Trump recently slapped 25% tariffs on Indian goods, citing our high trade surplus and Russian defense imports. So this whole Pakistan oil dream might just be his way of throwing shade and gas. Now here's the real concern. India's trade surplus with US stood at $45.7 billion in 2024. The US is clearly uncomfortable with how much we sell to them and how little we buy back. Now add in our BRICS membership, our defense deals with Russia, and Trump's frustration starts to make sense, at least to him. But none of that changes the ground reality. Pakistan is not the next Saudi Arabia. It has limited proven reserves, no export-grade infrastructure, and no commercial drilling underway. Even the ambitious oil city project that they were working on, backed by Saudi Arabia, is still years away, stuck somewhere in bureaucratic limbo and budget constraints. So let's not get carried away. Pakistan exporting oil to India? Not happening. Not this year, not next, not even next decade, unless there's fossil fuel miracle. What we are watching is not rise of a new energy giant. It's the rerun of an old show, foreign policy with popcorn and punchlines. In conclusion, the only oil India will get from Pakistan is in headlines. This is not business. This is a narrative building. This is pressure politics. And until Pakistan drills, refines, and exports even a single drop of oil commercially, let alone to India, this is all smoke and no fire. But thanks, Mr. Trump, for the headline. We needed the laugh. Stay tuned.